and a very warm welcome to all our viewers around the world and Nigeria on Global TV Midday News live in Nigeria's capital Abuja. I am Fauziya Lukman. President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 3 new executive commissioners to serve in the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC), under the deployment of 1 current executive commissioner pending their confirmation by the Nigerian Senate. They are Bashir Indabawa, Executive Commissioner, Exploration and Agri-Age Management; Kelechi Afogbedu, Executive Commissioner, Corporate Service and Administration; Enoronse Amadasu, Executive Commissioner, Development and Production; and Babajide Fasina, Executive Commissioner, Economic Regulation and Strategic Planning. The President approved this reshuffling and replacement based on his deeply informed assessment of all factors concerning the sector, with a view to establishing a regulatory framework and culture that comprehensively disintegrate errant behavior and insensitize the agency and rule-based business practice across the industry. Similarly, President Bola Tinubu has appointed Risola Abiola as the Senior Special Assistant on Citizenship and Leadership. In this role, she will be working closely with the leadership of the Ministry of Youth. Abiola is a public relations professional and a youth and gender advocate. She is also a founding member of the party's Young Women's Movement and was appointed as one of the 3 youth representatives to the party's Board of Trustees in 2015. The First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has charged the leadership of the Armed Forces of Nigeria to encourage women to join the military. The First Lady gave the charge at a 1-day gender mainstream conference with a team building capacity through gender mainstream to meet security challenges. She says globally, the conduct of military operations was seen as a role reserved exclusively for men. Kikelamo Okiri has details.
The Nigerian military authorities are taking steps to increase the involvement of women in male-dominated area of operations, such as combat. First Lady, Federal Republic of Nigeria, who was represented by the wife of the Vice President, urged the leadership of the armed forces to extend dialogue beyond the confinement of this conference and empower women and ranks.
Gender mainstreaming is now much more than rhetoric and a policy agenda. It is a fundamental shift in the way we perceive and address security challenges. It recognizes that security encompasses not only military strength, but also the protection of human rights, economic stability, social and environmental sustainability.
But the trend is gradually changing as women are increasingly assuming roles previously held by men. This forum, convened by the military authorities in Abuja, is meant to gather more women in the military to assume roles previously performed by men, especially in the conflict situation.
It recognizes the important role of women in prevention and resolution of conflicts, peace negotiation, peacekeeping, as well as humanitarian response in post-conflict reconstruction. Consequently, it calls for equal participation and full involvement of women in all efforts in the maintenance and promotion of peace and security.
As the security situation in the country continues to evolve, mounting pressures of the authorities, the federal government says is adopting approaches in tackling the challenges.
Security challenges. This was carefully chosen with a view to embracing holistic realities in the integration of wider gender perspective for the armed forces of Nigeria. The conference is also tailored at fashioning out the right ambience for the armed forces in designing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating operational and administrative doctrines that seek to promote and enhance capacity by leveraging gender mainstreaming in combating the myriad of security challenges in our nation.
The notion is that when women get involved in frontline roles in conflict situations, cases of sexual and gender-based violence will either be prevented or reduced.
The profession is seen as a profession exclusively reserved for the men. So if a young girl has an ambition of becoming a military officer, she's discouraged by her parents, she's discouraged by her community. And we need to start reorientating the public to get them to realize that men and women can actually be actively engaged in the armed forces.
Besides creating balance, the increasing use of women in managing conflict reduces the likelihood of sexual and gender-based violence, according to the UN women official. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, that fail to appear to defend their input in the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper risks being sacked by President Bola Tinubu. Akpabio gave the warning at the opening of the 5-day public hearing on the 2024-2026 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategic paper, organized by the Senate Joint Committees on Finance, Appropriation, National Planning and Economic Affairs, and Local Content of Foreign Debt. Uyi Agbomofuegwe has the rest of the story.
Senator Akpabio decried alleged frivolous expenditures by MDAs, particularly government-owned enterprises. He acknowledged that in view of current realities, borrowing cannot be totally avoided, but cannot be allowed to continue unchecked.
That every head of agency invited to come and sit down and interact with the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria with a view to planning and strategizing on how this present administration can succeed. Any serious-minded appointee or any head of any agency that is interested in the success of President Tinubu's administration ought to be here. I'll be glad, Mr. Chairman, if you can give me the list of all the heads of agencies that you invited who have failed to show up in this session. This is the beginning of their failure in their various offices. Therefore, I'm happy to see the chairman of FIRS here present, and I've also seen the DG, Nimasa, and others. Outside, my minister, who himself knows the importance of what we are doing. Any head of agency that sent a representation here is not a serious person. And therefore, the president must take a second look at such a person's appointment. It's not a threat, it is a truth.
According to the President of the Senate, achieving a balance to reducing budget deficits requires legislative work to look inward towards increasing revenue generation and blocking of leakages.
When we have the consolidated revenue accounts, as expected, all funds should go to a consolidated revenue account, and they ought to be appropriated for. Just bill and keep, bill and spend, maybe a good idea. There are some government-owned agencies that are allowed by the extant regulations, which cannot override constitutional provision to bill and spend, and then return what they like to the consolidated revenue account.
Earlier at the opening session, Chairman, Senate Committee on Finance, Senator Sani Musa, who acknowledged the complex and challenging economic situation, said 2024 to 2026 MTEF and FSP documents represent a critical roadmap that charts the economic and finance course of the country for upcoming years 2024 to 2026.
An investigative hearing on the remittance of all revenue-generating agencies of government to the consolidated revenue account of the Federation, as well as the payment of the first stamp duty, 1% stamp duty on all contracts executed in all MDAs.
Uyi Agbomofuegwe, reporting for Global Television News.
The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has appealed to the labor leaders to cease disruption of aviation activities across the country. Keyamo spoke on the ongoing ministerial retreat of the Ministry of Ifuru, Uvelle Council area of Delta State on Thursday, condemning the alleged molestation of the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC chairman Joe Ajaero. The minister advised that as much as possible, people must avoid environments that will cause such manhandling. He said aviation was not involved in the alleged molestation of the Labour leader. He also said in targeting aviation, it affects both foreigners, adding that this is a disruption to the entire nation. Following a protest by workers led by the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, alongside the Trade Union Congress, TUC, Joe Ajaero, in Imo State last week against the order of the National Integrity Court, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, NUJ, in a press briefing by Splendor Abokolo, Executive Director of the Initiative for Leadership and Economic Watch in Nigeria, has called for the suspension and investigation of Ajaero as his actions prior to the forthcoming election in Imo State allegedly pose great threat to democracy. Global TV's Sharon Ajaero was at the briefing and now completes the story.
Ogbokolo noted that the attitude of Ajaero in Imo State not only poses as a threat to the civil and political order in the state, but paints him as a partisan figure.
Recall that on the 2nd of November 2023, the partisan labor leader comrade Ajaero went on the PSEC expedition calling out law-abiding Imo workers for a wide protest to invoke a security breach, which means that Ajaero has missed the track and is taking the laws into his hands, and as such should be tamed to not to further cause pandemonium in Imo State during the elections. Let it be on record that Comrade Ajaero-led NLC have now become a political arm of the Labour Party, ready to blackmail and twist and repudiate mechanisms to disrupt the forthcoming democratic elections in Imo State.
He also urged Joe Ajaero and other labor leaders to distinguish themselves so as not to make the public see the organized labor as an entity with political affiliation, mainly driven by partisanship.
Also, note that Ajaero, in connivance with his shenanigans, are ready to dance the Macabre dance. Their stock in trade is to blackmail the government and score cheap political points. We hereby urge the NLC to purge herself from partisanship as a labor union, as the last resort for the common man. It is our time the union suspend Ajaero in order to restore the confidence of ordinary Nigerians who see labor unionism as a struggle for the enforcement of workers' rights and entitlements.
Sharon Ajaero reporting for Global TV News.
The Nigerian Armed Forces have issued a stern warning to criminal elements intending to exploit military uniforms for nefarious activities during the forthcoming off-season elections, emphasizing their commitment to guaranteeing the secured progress of electoral process. The Director of Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, stated this while addressing newsmen in Abuja on the activities of the troops in various operations across the country. Kikelomo Ukiri has details.
At the bi-weekly briefing of the activities of the troops in their theater of operations across the 6th geopolitical zone of the country, the Director of Defense Media Operations, who said the military high command has deployed personnel and equipment to ensure safe conduct of the off-season elections in Kogi, Imo, and Bayelsa states, warns against any action detrimental to the success of the electoral process.
For the off-season elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states coming up this weekend, here is a message for those that plan to disrupt the process. We are aware of your plans to dress in military gear to mislead the public. Be assured of injurious consequences should you proceed with those plans. We will not allow our image to be dragged to the mud. You are hereby warned.
On the activities of the troops in the last 1 week, the director explained that several successes have been recorded, with several terrorists neutralized and some arrested and ammunition recovered, among other items.
Our operations in the last 1 week resulted in 113 neutralized terrorists, with 300 of them arrested. Troops arrested 25 perpetrators of oil theft and rescued 91 kidnapped hostages.
General Buba further stated that the crude oil product worth over millions of naira was denied oil thieves in the South-South zone.
In the South-South, troops denied the oil theft of an estimated sum of over 570 million naira. Furthermore, troops recovered 129 assorted weapons and 717 assorted ammunition.
The Director of Defense Media Operations urged the citizenry to continue to cooperate with security agencies to protect the lives and properties of residents. Kikelom Okeri, Global Television News.
The Executive Director, Resource Center for Human Rights and Civic Education, said Dr. Ibrahim Zulkifli has urged President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to display statesmanship and leadership by instituting an immediate comprehensive process for reforming and cleaning up Nigeria's electoral process. Crusade gave the charge in a media briefing in Abuja to address the state of the nation. Global TV correspondent Subarat Usman was there and tells us more.
The executive director, who was represented by the director of press, Crusade, Amsfree Ajanako, also charged the citizens of Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi State to exercise their democratic rights and vote wisely in favor of integrity, capacity and competence, and not sell their votes.
Crusade urges President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to display statesmanship and leadership by instituting an immediate, comprehensive process for reforming and cleaning up Nigeria's electoral process. To say the least, nominating politicians for the offices of resident electoral commissioners negates the spirit of fair play and falls short of international standards for election administration and creates the space for violent electoral conflicts.
Crusade used the occasion to urge Nigerians to reject all forms of dehumanization and insist on the respect of their fundamental rights.
As we urge the citizens of Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states to exercise their democratic right en masse on November 11, Crusade urges voters to vote wisely in favor of integrity, capacity, and competence, and not sell their votes. We urge the voters to defend and safeguard their ballots by ensuring that each vote is tallied. We also demand that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, operates in a professional manner in allowing every ballot to count.
Voters are therefore urged to defend and safeguard their ballots by ensuring that each vote is tallied. Sobra Usman, Global Television News, Abuja.
You're watching Global TV Midday News, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. We are on Satellite Channel 276. Kindly follow us across social media platforms using @GlobalTV NG and other handles now showing on your screen. When the Midday News returns, federal government spends 7.76 trillion naira on salaries and others. The news continues shortly with details of this and other stories right after this short break. Please don't go away. Welcome back to Global Television, bringing you live broadcasts of the midday news from the nation's capital, Abuja. And on the foreign scene, prosecutors in Burundi on Thursday called for sacked Prime Minister Alain Guillaume Burundi to be sentenced to life in prison, as he has been on trial since September before the Supreme Court, sitting in session at the prison in political capital, Gitera, where he is being detained. Burundi was Prime Minister from mid-2020 until September 2022, when he was fired, days after President Evariste Ndayishimiye warned of the coup plot against him. He is accused of threatening the life of the head of state, undermining national security, attempting to topple government institutions, destabilizing the economy, and illegal enrichment, among other charges. Appearing in the dock with 6 co-defendants, he pleaded not guilty to all charges and said he should be acquitted because of lack of evidence against him. The presiding judge says a verdict will be issued within 30 days. Toxic smog in eastern Pakistan has made thousands of people sick, forcing authorities to shut some cities for the rest of the week. Smog in the country's second largest city, Lahore, has risen to dangerous levels. The Punjab provincial government has ordered that schools, offices, malls and parks in 3 cities, including Lahore, be closed until Sunday. Over the past few days, Lahore's air quality index, which measures the level of fine particulate matter in the air, has hovered around the 400 mark. An IQ level at or below 100 are generally thought as satisfactory. Lahore borders the Indian city of Amritsar. North India is also suffering from the impact of toxic smoke. Air pollution in the Indian capital, Delhi, has risen to alarming levels. On Tuesday, the air quality index for the Indian capital hit 300 on 7th November, nearly reaching the hazardous level of 301 to 500. Time to talk about some business now. The federal government recently agreed wage and the Labour Congress salary for federal workers and non-other debt recurrent costs are expected to go up 7.7 trillion naira in 2023. This is based on data from the initial 2023 budget and recently signed 2023 supplementary budget. The country's central government recently approved 2.18 trillion naira budget to augment the new expenses, including unagreed wages reward for workers due to removal of fuel subsidy. When this budget was announced, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, noted that 605 billion naira has been earmarked for the national defense, while 210 billion naira will cover the payment of wages award. He said 605 billion for national defense and security is to sustain the gains made in security. It will accelerate the gains in the sector as the funds will be made available to security agencies before the year runs out. Equally, a sum of 300 billion naira was provided to earlier bridges, including Eko and 3rd Mainland Bridge, as well as construction, rehabilitations and maintenance of many roads nationwide before the return of the rainy season. According to the appropriation detail from the Budget Office, 1.01 trillion naira of the total budget is for recurrent expenditure, with 1.17 trillion naira pegged for capital expenditure. The supplementary budget is set to increase the total non-debt recurrent expenditure of the federal government to 7.76 trillion naira and capital expenditure of 4.53 trillion naira. That's it on Global TV Midday News, and it came to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. We are on StarTime channel 276. Kindly follow us across social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. On behalf of the production team, I am Fauziya Lukman, thanking you so very much for watching.